are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay, let's begin. How are you today?
I'm good, doing well.
Okay.
How about you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. So what would you like to talk about today?
Actually, what's happening is that every time I'm having a lesson, and especially if it's a hands-on lesson and I teach year 2, I find that my class control always goes out of hands. So the children either start to fight for the resources, or there's some kind, like where I'm trying to gather their attention, while after doing their activity I want to have some conversations, some dialogues with them. They're still at it, and then I find myself speaking louder than what they are speaking, and then they're speaking louder than me, and my class control goes out of hands. And I'm really working on it, but yeah, so far I've not been able to handle that situation really well.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is that you're having some issues with classroom management.
Right.
You're in a year 2 classroom.
Yes.
Part of what happens is that students are fighting over resources.
Yeah.
And then when they complete an activity, they're all talking over each other.
Yes, and while I'm
Okay.
trying to gather their attention to have a conversation or a dialogue regarding whatever we have done just now, I find them still fidgeting with the resources, or they're not really listening to me, and then yeah, that's where I struggle mostly.
Okay. So again, I hear you bringing up resources, and now they're not fighting over resources, they're fidgeting over resources.
That's part of
Or
it.
fidgeting with their resources.
Yes. So initially they would fight because they are having the resources to do, and since they're year 2, very young children, they all want to hold the resources and do. But I come from a school where we definitely are limited with resources. So if I'm giving it to a group of 5 children, only one child probably, or maximum 2 children can really do. The others have to, allow them to do. And if I have all the 5 of them to do it, then it will take a lot of time, and
Right.
that's
Right.
where I'm struggling trying to manage that.
Okay, okay. So if you were to set a goal, if this problem was to be solved in 2 weeks, what would that lesson with resources look like?
The children are engaged productively when the resources are given. They don't really fight on the resources. Like if I tell that, okay, such and such, you will be the one who will be conducting it. The rest of us are here to take the observations and note down, and then afterwards have a discussion. Then that works really nice in my dream class. And after that, once they finish that and I say class, and they'll say yes, yes, and I have their attention to me, and I can lead the class towards discussion, towards higher order thinking, and the other stuff that I have planned for the children after that. So these are the 2 things would have made my class better. So that's the goal I would have.
Okay, so can you just tell me again briefly what those two things are?
So I would
1, 2, yeah.
cooperative learning. During collaboration, the children are more cooperative, and after the collaborative task, when I'm taking their attention to me, they are with me. They are willing, and they are keen to leave their stuff, and now that they know that is over, so I can gather their attention, and
Okay.
they are with me at that time.
Okay,
So 2 things I think.
okay. So let's examine the situation as it is right now. You said you teach year 2.
Yes.
How old are year 2 students?
6-year-olds.
6-year-olds. And how many students are in your class?
I have 30 of them.
36-year-olds in your class.
Yes.
Okay, so what are your expectations for how a 6-year-old is supposed to behave?
Left on their own, probably that's how they would behave. The way I am seeing that happen in the class, probably they would need some training, some routines a little more rigorous. I'm doing the routines like we do every year, but somehow this year I'm not able to get my class to be with me and work with me the way I have been able to do the previous years. It's already 2 months, but I find myself still struggle with it.
Okay.
So though I do know that yes, I have to set my routines, I'm working with them, but yeah, this year I've not been able to manage that really well.
Okay. So you're saying that you don't expect 6-year-olds to be able to behave
On their own.
appropriately on their own, but you have, since the beginning of the year, laid out the rules and routines
Yes.
of how to, have you laid out the rules and routines of how to work with these resources in particular, all resources? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, if I think I have asked them, like we have these little songs that we have which the children sing while they are transitioning from one activity to another, or when resources are given and they are settling down. So I'm thinking as we talk that probably I could give them roles, and those roles may rotate with the class to class, so that the children may feel that okay, it's not that today if I've not got the chance, I will never get it by rotation. So I think as we talk, I'm feeling that maybe I can try that.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Because though I have put checklist on the tables for behavior, yet not all of them, and especially these 3 children in my class, and who are most troublesome. So like however many checklists and however many reminders, I just, the moment I move out from the table, they are back to their behaving like a 6-year-old. And yeah, so probably because of that, then that rolls as a domino effect, and then I have more children catching up on that kind of behavior. So maybe defining roles and then giving these children maybe on the first day so that they are satisfied, and then maybe trying that.
Okay, okay. No, it sounds like you're thinking about what you can do to change the situation. The other thing I hear you saying is that there are 3 children, and am I correct in saying that when these 3 children start misbehaving, the
Yes.
other children copy
Yes,
them?
yes, kind of catch up. So maybe the other children who they want to do that, but because they kind of take the authority or whatever that okay, the teachers told us, and so they kind of comply. But when they find other friends doing it, and of course getting away with it, because at the end you do talk very nicely to them, you make
Right.
them seated, you don't really do anything that threatens them, you kind of encourage them. So maybe probably the others are finding that okay, it's all right to do it, I mean it's okay, you know, they are getting away with it, so
Right.
might as well we may also try.
Right. So it sounds to me like when you hand out the resources, there are issues with cooperative learning. There are issues with ending the lesson and returning back to listening to you and
Yes.
that transition. And there are 3 children who kind of start the misbehavior and then some other children copy
Yes,
them.
yes, ripple effect of that.
Yeah, okay, so that seems to be what's going on right now. And you did say since the beginning of the year, you implemented some rules and routines, but they don't seem to be followed.
Yes.
So the next thing I want to know is, what are these rules and routines specifically that you have taught the students in terms of handling materials, resources?
Yeah, usually I used to give them the resources, and then I used to keep it covered until the time of the using the resources happen, because of course we have to settle the table before the children are seated there, so that time is not wasted. And then I would do it and have some kind of a cover to it till we actually start. But the moment when I have given the instructions and then we think about starting, and I remove the cover from it, that's when they would go onto it. So I usually would tell them not to show them the checklist that this is where we are, we behave like this and behave like that. So not to touch out of turn. And but yes, I have not, like as I talk, like I said, that maybe settling down with roles would have helped, being very specific with that. So
Yeah.
maybe I could try that.
Yeah, so let's consider that. So what could these roles be for groups of students?
Yeah, especially with
handling
these
the
most
resources.
of these resources, when we do, there's some kind of an observation that they're doing, looking at them. So probably sensory, some kind of touching, opening, whatever the task may be. Usually it is like that, and then there will be some kind of a recording sheet where they will record whatever they are seeing or whatever they think from it.
Okay.
So maybe I could have a child who is the one who's doing it, conducting it, another one who's making the observations, who's responsible. Of course, they're all making observations, but this child is responsible for verbalizing the observation, taking viewpoints from everybody. And another one could be the one who's a writer, so who writes it for the group
Okay.
and records and takes the answers from everybody and writes it.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe one of them who comes out and presents it. So we don't have anybody fighting around it. Usually 4 to 5 children in a group is what I have.
Okay, 4 to 5 children in a group. So what you came up with there was 4 different roles.
Yeah.
You have the student who's doing the actual touching. You have the one who is doing the observing.
Or, I mean, observing, of course, they'll all be doing, but maybe this child
They're
can
vocalizing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then you have the writer,
Yeah.
and then you have the one who is presenting.
Presenting when the teacher asks for, I mean, when I ask to discuss with the whole class what they have done and what they have found out.
Okay, do you think it would be possible to have more than one student be the one doing the touching and the moving around? Maybe, could that be 2 students
Yeah,
in
2
the
is
group?
possible. Yeah, 2 is possible.
Okay.
Because, 2 is possible.
Okay. So one idea you have, which I think is a great idea, are these roles. And one of the things I love about that is that each child has a certain role they have to play. So they're not just learning the lesson you're giving them, but they're also learning this skill of being
Working
the writer or being the observer or being the presenter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's think about another option. What's another thing
That I could
you
do.
think you can do? Let's go back to these 3 children in particular that are being very disruptive and may have a hard time learning to control their behavior.
One
what
of them
could
is
we do with
extremely
them?
smart,
Mhm.
and he picks up things very easily. So probably I find that because he feels he knows it all, and he has a little bossism that he has that attitude. So he probably wants to bully the others to show that I am the smart one here. So that's his issue, I feel. And the other 2, there's a girl who is like, she likes to move around the class and kind of, she's the teacher of the class. She wants to tell everybody what to do. And so probably when an activity happens, she thinks she has to get onto the role full-fledged now.
Okay.
So because now she can move around a little more. So these are the 2. And the third one is, I'm not sure if he is really gathering what's happening in the class, because sometimes, like when I go and repeat and ask, I mean, whatever we are talking, and I try to let him reply back to me as to what we are learning or what we are doing. Sometimes he talks about things which are a little disconnected from what we are actually talking, and then he'll laugh, and then he'll move away. So I kind of like, all right, so I kind of pull him back, but again he runs away. So that's what is happening there. I have informed the inclusion department, because I feel that these 3 children may need some attention. But in my school, the inclusion department is very, they are not sourced well. So there's just 3 of them, and one of them has just resigned. And so they are saying that too many children they are having to look after. So currently they are not taking any more new referrals. So I'm trying to manage it my own.
Oh, that must be really hard. Sounds like what you're saying is, that's a lot for any school and any teacher. So these 3 children, might I give you some advice?
Yes, please.
Have you ever had an opportunity just to talk to these 3 children on their own? So maybe the class is outside for recess, or the class is somewhere else, and you actually show them how to use these resources and just spend a little more time connecting with them, because typically children who feel more connected to their teacher behave a little bit better.
That's something I have not tried, though I've tried to build relationships with them by being very motherly with them and being friendly with them and talking to them, but I've never done this where the rest of them are not there and I have shown them through the resources, how to behave with the resources, and in a classroom setting. I will definitely give that a shot. That would help, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, might you be willing to consider that these children just really want your attention?
Possibly.
For some reason, what is underneath this behavior? Something's going on inside of them that they can't keep their hands off these resources. So might you be willing to look a little deeper and try to connect a little more with these kids and see maybe if that can be just one step closer to helping this problem?
Yeah, I will give
Okay.
that a try. I think the two things together, setting rules and then trying to connect with these children, might make at least some difference,
Mhm.
positive impact.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can give it a try.
Okay, so that's two options then that you have. Can you think of one more thing?
Maybe once again going through routines and specific routines when we are doing hands-on learning. So when I'm
Okay.
giving instructions, I can initially maybe repeat those and highlight those a little more. Maybe I can do
Okay.
in my MSc lesson or in my assemblies or carpet time that we do. We can
Okay.
have some kind of a role play and
Ah.
so that the children themselves can see how it looks and
Okay. So-
maybe
Let me just stop you there. Who would this role play be
the
with?
kids themselves, maybe I could have some of the kids
Ah.
go up